Do you remember the show about three little girls that went around town kicking some mad ass? Who were built from sugar, spice, and everything nice? Well, in this podcast today, I, Qaaman, will be joined by UncannyMegan and Jaxblade as we will discuss probably the most nostalgic female show of our childhood in the Powerpuff Girls. So let's get started, and Jordan, why don't you lead us off?
All right, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about one of my top 10 favorite shows of all time, the Powerpuff Girls. Like, this show still holds up. What's the Powerpuff Girls about? Well, you got Blossom, the commander and the leader. Bubbles, she's the joy and the laughter. Buttercup, well, she's the toughest fighter. And you know what? They always save the day, fighting crime, trying to save the world. I mean, they come just in time. They're the Powerpuff Girls, fighting crime, trying to save the world. Here they come just in time. The PPG is all day for thee. All right, this is one of my favorite shows. How about you guys?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was super into Powerpuff Girls when it was on TV, and I always got excited for it to come on, and they would play it really close to the Toonami block, and it was nice to have the girl power show next to all the guy power shows.
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, the interesting thing about Powerpuff Girls to me is that, the characters were so dynamic, and I think what really makes these shows, and this is a recurring theme on our podcast, is interestingly enough, whenever you have characters that have very polarizing personalities, it makes the show way more entertaining because it helps you as a kid, especially a kid, and kids are, obviously developing their personalities when they're young. I think it helps you pick which one you like. And personally, I was always the most attracted to Buttercup because I just kind of like that badass, ruthless, mean personality that she had. And obviously by modern standards, she'd be considered like a gothic girl. And I always thought that was the most awesome thing about it, how she was just mean and green. And it kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball in some ways, where you had that Blossom who was the leader, like Goku, and then you had Buttercups like Vegeta, Piccolo, those type of mean characters. And that's one thing that really got me into Powerpuff Girls.
One of my favorites, what's funny is Quinn brought up a very valid point about the characters all seem relatable, because my personal favorite was just Bubbles. I thought she was the most adorable thing, and since we were the same age, I had a crush on her at the same time, so it's not weird because we were the same age at the it's not weird, guys, because it's the same age at the time. It's not
Bubbles
like I look
was my
back.
Favorite.
Yeah, see?
I don't think anybody likes Blossom. The leader type's always the one that turns you off. You're a little too bothersome.
It's true though. It's it's one of those things. Even in the Powerpuff Girls movie, they had the behind the scenes stuff. It's people always like Buttercup and Bubbles. Why? Oh, Bubbles is a cute one. I'm cute. Look at this bow. And Buttercup's a tough one. Yeah. Well, me, I'm I'm not tough. You see how many asses I kick? Well, she didn't say asses. Of course, they can't say that in Cartoon Network. But she was saying something along that route. And I always thought it was just funny because everyone was kind of we like these two, but Blossom was she was the one who had the unique, I have ice breath abilities, and no one else had that, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
So what was your favorite episode? Anybody?
My favorite episode was just the Rowdy Rough Boys. I thought the Rowdy
took mines, bro.
I'm sorry, man. That was such a good episode.
What was it? Sticks and Snails and Puppy Dog Tails?
Yeah, Sticks, Snails, Puppy Dog Tails, and then Toilet Water made the Rowdy Rough Boys. Because it was so bad. I just love the fact that I always loved in shows where they met a nega version of themselves. Us all being Dragon Ball Z fans, the Goku, even though we didn't know he was a Saiyan back in the day, it was we have these evil Saiyans coming, and they're just a way Goku could have turned out to be like these characters if he didn't bump his head. So I just love the fact that they had these opposites of, okay, we have the Powerpuff Girls, now we have the Rowdy Rough Boys, and they're just the Powerpuff Girls to extreme, and then they just effed them up so much, and they were trying to fight them. But what I really loved was the fact that the girls put up a pretty damn good fight, besides the ending after they farted on him, whatever.
They also had Bunny too, the Powerpuff Girls making their own Powerpuff Girl. She was great. It's so messed up.
That was such a sad episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think those negative characters are always what really makes a show really fun, in my opinion, because it's they're finding an anti-version of themselves, and I think that's when the show was always the most entertaining to me. But personally, another character, and obviously I'm a big fan of Piccolo, I always kind of found even though Piccolo wasn't my favorite character at the time, Mojo Jojo, looking at it from a modern sense, actually kind of reminds me of Piccolo because he has like the green skin, kind of like that little turban thing on his head. He's green and he also has that cape, and I'm like, he kind of reminds me of Piccolo. And I remember when they had that movie, the Powerpuff Girls movie, and I was telling Megan about this off the air, that interestingly enough, I wanted to go see that Powerpuff Girls movie with my sister, my older sister. And my dad thought it was kind of like weird because he's like, son, this is like a girls' cartoon show. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, but I mean, that has nothing to do with it. It's awesome. And then when we actually go to the movie theaters, we see like at least probably 60% of the kids watching the movie with their parents are boys, and actually the minority of the girls. And my dad was like so dumbfounded. He's like, why are there so many boys who are going out to watch this cartoon show? And he's like, and I was just telling him, it's like a testament to how just awesome the show was, and how dynamic and creative the ideas were.
Yes, I have to say that is the appropriate assessment of emotion that should be enjoyed by individuals who are fanatics of the show, which aired in the 90s to early 2000s with a special in 2008 and 2014. Both mediocre, but the latter was greatly surpassed, which is to say that I found the show greatly amusing, which is to say that I found the show pretty entertaining by modern audiences, and his way of communication was quite accurate, and I found it quite enjoyable to see.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Which is to say that my way of speaking is quite attractive, which is to say that my way of... I'm sorry, I can't stop.
What do you... I got a question for both of you guys, though. Now, I remember I was reading this in an article a while back that the interesting thing about the Powerpuff Girls is him. And I remember reading the reason why they called him, I remember reading this somewhere, is that they felt that if they called him like the devil, which he was obviously clearly implied to be, then that would be a little too dark for like a kid show. But at the same time, they made it very evident that it was him, and that's why they called him, and also kind of to contrast with that whole transgender looking thing. What do you guys think about him as a character?
Effed up. I mean, I'm like, when you think about it, like, generally, like, him was, like, do you remember that one episode where they, the Powerpuff Girls were having a race, and so, like, they went so fast, they went to the future, and then it was like, oh, the Powerpuff Girls are gone, and then him took over, and he basically, like, killed the mayor and did all this just foul stuff. He like just took over the world completely, and everyone, like Miss Bellum turned into a hag, and all these people, he just messed up the world so much that it was just like you could tell, like, okay, this demonic power did this. And it was a really dark episode. Like, Megan, what do you think?
I think that him was definitely their big bad, like the biggest of the bads. Whenever there was anything that had to do with kind of all of the villains, him was always the one that was kind of sitting on top. Like, all right, I'm made to be the worst there can be, I feel like.
Bye-bye.
And what do you guys think about the whole sexual orientation connotations with him, too?
I think that was Cartoon Network. Well, not Cartoon Network, but the Craig McCracken, right, is his name? Yeah, pushing his boundaries.
It's crazy to think, like, okay, him, like, what I really love about him is that he was just kind of a casual supervillain, though. Like, he's just so powerful and could do so much damage, and it really depended on his mood, because most of the time he's just like, oh, I'm going to do my workout today. Oh, sorry, I didn't have anything evil planned. And then they're just like, oh, okay, well, just let us know. All right, I will. Bye-bye. And then there was that whole episode with, he was like trying to make it. Turned out that the professor was buying pancakes from him, and he was just like, he had put the girls through all these evil tests. He was like, the professor is going to pay, and he was just like, oh crap, like what is the professor gonna pay? Oh no. And then they don't get it, and he has to like pay. So I just love the fact that him is just like, yeah, I'm the evilest thing in the world, but I like to have fun and just enjoy myself. So yeah.
I always liked Morbucks. I thought she was just like so funny. Like, I want to be a Powerpuff Girl too, but you won't let me, so I'm gonna be my own. Daddy's money can pay for it.
She was the little rich girl who always wanted to basically like join up with them and stuff.
Yeah, she gave him the best, like, all right, like you want to talk DBZ, that was the first DBZ fight of the series, because remember, like, she like owned Buttercup and Bubbles, and then all right, so this is where Blossom has to get her props, because Blossom was the one who like fought her, and then she like blasted her, and she did that little side head tilt that like Piccolo did when he was strangling. So it's just like, oh snap, like Blossom, you can't mess with Blossom. And she was just like trying to beat up Blossom, and she was just like having this, it was pretty much a DBZ-esque fight. If you go on YouTube and look it up, I'm pretty sure someone's put like Dragon Ball Z music with it already, but that was just such a damn good episode and introduction of that character.
I agree, man. I mean, another thing that I think was interesting about the Powerpuff Girls is just the fact that it was so silly, but yet you loved it as well. And I think that the action sequences, obviously, like when it comes to like how it looks today, obviously the action sequences might not look like the most engaging with the best choreography, but it was just a simple, fun show. And I think personally, when I look at Powerpuff Girls, I think that the original holds up so well because I felt that the characters were a lot more genuine, whereas this modern day Powerpuff Girls show, it's just pretty much like cheesy. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's something about the modern Powerpuff Girls. It just seems cheesy and like they're trying too hard to build their characters. What do you guys think about the modern Powerpuff Girls versus the new?
I haven't watched it yet, so I can't say anything about it. I've only seen clips online, and I love the clips I've seen, so I'll probably like the show because I love Teen Titans Go. So
no, Megan, don't watch it. It's one of those shows. It's one of those shows where, like, if you watch. Okay, so here's what I don't understand about the show. They say like, okay, we're gonna replace the main girls, which is okay, I get that. But then you bring back all the old voice actors for all the like Mojo Jojo, Professor Utonium, the mayor, and the narrator. They barely use the narrator. As a matter of fact, my friend Saberspark did a whole video on this, and my friend Paleo as well on the faults of it. But it just doesn't. The show has no real heart. Like, they keep trying to reference outdated memes as like jokes, and we're just like, that was maybe funny like a few years ago, but it's kind of really dated and it's not even humorous. And then the girls are they retell episodes from the old series. Like, they had one episode where Bubbles, not Bubbles, Buttercup, she had an anger issue, and so she was like, oh well, I need to meditate and become all zen with my stuff. And that was like a throwback to an episode that was really well done back in the original series called Make Zen to Me. And in that show, it was entertaining to watch that happen, but in this new one it's no. And then I don't get how powerful they are, because they like weaken Ari. So here's one thing. Bubbles gets her arm broken by like a simple slap by a supervillain, and the supervillain isn't anything, it's just like a rat man. She gets slapped into a wall and her arm gets broken. Now in the original show, they can tank like planet leveling attacks and like rocks and buildings and all this stuff, so it doesn't make sense to me why they would weaken them so much. And then they have these Green Lantern powers as well, and it doesn't. Oh my god, if this show would be an hour if we like went on, but no, I can't. I can't. It's one of those shows where I would just say, just go back and watch the original. That's the only good thing about it, is it makes you want to go back and really enjoy the original again, which I have to say still holds up to this day. And the Powerpuff Girls is one of those shows that holds up from beginning to end, in my opinion.
Have either of you guys seen the anime?
Yes, I have.
It's cute. I love the Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls Z.
Yeah,
it's adorable.
PPG Z. It was a cute show. It was a cute show. I mean, like, it's one of those shows that, like, when they dubbed it, I was so confused, because I remember I was a kid at the time. Well, I was like a young teen at the time. I was like, well, why didn't they just, get the voice actors? But I learned, like, oh, there was licensing issues and problems and all this stuff when they dubbed it.
Well, didn't they only dub it in, like, it was another country. It wasn't even here.
Yeah, I think it was.
I'm pretty sure we didn't even get it here.
Yeah, it was in Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver did. Like, the Canadians, they were the ones who like dubbed it over, because like there's a few voice actors I recognize that are primarily in Vancouver for it. So yeah,
which is weird though, because you would have thought you would think that Cartoon Network would go, hey, we should license this here.
Yeah, obviously, because it's where it would be the most popular. I thought that was really silly. And I mean, honestly, man, like, at the end of the day, guys, I think Powerpuff Girls is such a great show. And one thing I wanted to tell Megan because Megan and I were talking about this off the air, is if you guys remember Miss Bellum, and we're also going to do Cow and Chicken in the future, two things I've noticed about Miss Bellum. One thing is that she was an over-sexualized character, and I remember that they were saying that's one of the elements why they didn't bring her in the show as often as other characters, because they thought that she was a little too over-sexualized. And the other element I wanted to talk about is we have noticed, Megan, that there are a lot of characters in these shows that used to come out in the 90s and the early 2000s that they would never show the person's full face. They would always show, like, you know, like from the top or like the legs down. And we've noticed shows like Cow and Chicken and stuff, which the parents actually were only legs and stuff like that. What do you guys think about this oversaturation of characters that never showed their full face?
Oh, it's just a thing. It was, in some stuff, it was cheaper to not animate adults. And then it's just, that's a cartoon trope of the parents, you only see their legs. It makes it more of a kid's perspective. Miss Bellum, that was just because she was over-sexualized, but other than that, with it's just a kind of from a kid's perspective. Just like in Charlie Brown, you can't understand the adults.
Yeah, you know, it's also true, like, for the record, people, if you watch the, I believe it was 2008 special, the 2008 special with Powerpuff Girls, you see Miss Bellum's face in that for like a brief second. It's just like a very brief second, but you do see Miss Bellum's face, so that was a nice little nod. But then a lot of things I have to say about Miss Bellum is she was actually one of the most, like, integral parts of the show. Like, if you don't realize, like, even though they didn't use her that much, like, she brought up like very valid points of certain things, like, okay, this is why, like, the whole episode with women's rights and stuff like that, she was explaining, like, look, it's okay to be a strong woman and not be like a over feministic person like this, and it's okay to do this, and then, like, you can use something. And she was a genuine fleshed out character if you watch the show. And, like, even though she was over sexualized, and they even made jokes about, like, oh, when they were doing the storyboards, like, her, like, buttons would come undone even more and more and more. Like, they didn't care, like, when they did it, but when they had to film this, when they actually had to animate, they just, like, had to go up. So that's why minimum cleavage was shown. But she was such a that's a fun fact, that's true, but she was like a really well made character. And then one of the reasons they took her out of the new show completely, they said there's no place for her in it because she wasn't they said a specific thing, like they said they didn't put her in the show because they didn't think she would fit the guidelines. And also I think this new show just has an issue with, like, boobs as well, because they took away Miss Keen's boobs. Like, even though they're just little circles, like, they took them away. She's like completely like freaking Candace from Phineas and Ferb. I don't know why they did that. I mean, it's anatomy. It's just a part of the body. Okay.
Yeah. Well, all in all, man, I mean, my final take on, you know, this Powerpuff Girls episode is, I think that Powerpuff Girls, the original, because I don't look at them as the same series. I think the original Powerpuff Girls was great. I think that the animation wasn't the best. It was very simplistic, but that was the case with a lot of these shows. I think it was funny. I think the creativity for the villains was also fantastic. The voice acting was great and it was simple. And I also like the fact that they made the girls who were completely artificially created kind of live through like normal kid lives. And I think that's what really made the show interesting. Like, here are these super powerful girls that have to still be girls at the end of the day, no matter the fact that they have all the strength in the world. I think that's what was really the key to Powerpuff Girls to me, and that's definitely what drew me into it. What about you guys?
Well, that was some of the best stuff, is when you saw the girls dealing with not fitting in because they weren't real girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, everyone used to make fun of them, like, they got bug eyes, stubby hands, no nose, and all this stuff. Like generally, when you think about it, they kind of probably look like, what the hell? They probably look like, yeah, rough. They looked really rough in the department when they were, like, decided. Yeah, that's what I think. That could be in there.
So,
I mean, with that said, Megan, what's your final take?
My final take, overall, Powerpuff Girls still holds up. Stop barking! Oh my god, I know there's a mail truck outside.
I think I'm gonna leave this one. Keep going.
It still holds up, it's still good, and I think it's on both Netflix and Hulu for anybody who wants to try and watch it. And if you haven't seen it, it's not one of those shows that's not going to hold up. You know, like, if you weren't a kid when you saw it, it's okay. You'll probably still like it trying to watch it now.
Alrighty, guys. So with that said, I hope you like our podcast for today. And in the comment section below, please share your thoughts on what you think about Powerpuff Girls, ranging from all the different things. And in addition, check out both Megan and Jordan. There will be a link to both of their channels in the description. You can find these people on Twitter. You can find them on Facebook, everything else. So for our hashtag of the day, it is so simple. Hashtag PPG. And that's all I gotta say. So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys. And Jordan, take us out.
Keep calm and booyah on. And don't forget, Momentai.